Hello there. Well, what we have in front of us now is a 1937 to 1941 Rickenbacher Electro, otherwise known as a Lunchpail guitar amplifier. These were originally sold with the Rickenbacher lap steels, which is widely regarded as the very first practical electric guitar. It had a pickup as we would recognize it today, although an odd one. It had a big U shape, like a horseshoe, that wrapped around the strings, and you fed your strings through it. It's kind of strange, but that's the way it was in the early days. And this amplifier was sold with that lap steel as a set, because why would you buy an electric lap steel without an amplifier? So they sold them together. So that makes this one of the very first electric guitar amps ever built, which I think is mighty impressive. So I found this at the Orlando Guitar Show late January 2023. And as I'm making my way through all this booths and everything, I came across this old guy, and I'm looking at it and I'm checking it out. I recognized what it was right away. And the guy with the booth is standing there looking at me going, "You want to buy that amp? It needs a lot of work. How much you asking for it?" Well, let me just say that I got it for a steal. So yeah, I bought this thing fully intending to do all the work on it. The circuit board is very, very simple. It's just a few components, really. Overall, this old guy is in excellent original condition. The steel cabinet is in great shape. The power transformer still works. All of the resistors still measure within spec. I only had to change 2, and that's because whoever did some work on this put in the wrong ones. They put in 2 470Ks in series rather than 100K that it calls for. And of course, all the tubes still work, which is really amazing. I'm not sure this amp was hardly ever used all that much. One of the tubes has a sticker on it that says 1947. You'll see this big fat resistor on top strapping across, and it has another older, or should we say newer style resistor feeding underneath this filter cap here, or I'm sorry, coupling cap. And strangely and oddly enough, they're both the wrong values, and this big fat one doesn't even need to be here at all. So I don't know what they were thinking, but they were thinking wrong. So I went in here and I took that resistor out and I put in a 100K resistor like it should be. Put in a similar close value coupling caps on here, and then I rigged up this bizarre string of filter caps on the side because it did have this old box looking filter cap, which is a 2 microfarad. And I can't find a 2 microfarad at, what is it, 600 volts or whatever it is, 500 volts. So what I did is I strung together a whole bunch of 8s in order to get it down to about 2.5 or 3, which is close enough. And then I put these 10s in here so I can at least turn this thing on and hear what it sounds like. Well, here I am looking at the underside of the 1937 Ricknbacher Electro Model 4, as it turns out, that I've already done a little bit of work to. I am debating whether to keep these. These just came in the mail. I don't know, I'll probably change them out. I did replace the 100K resistor right there, and then I rigged up a really ugly bunch of caps over here because hanging off of this transformer is a 2 UF going straight to ground, and that's going to get replaced with this. And that's straight off the rectifier, so it really wants to see that first. And then I've got some brand new F&Ts here that I'm going to replace those with. And then that's it, boys and girls. I put this whole thing together, and we'll see what it sounds like. There's the lid for it over there. That's the case it goes in, and I've got the speaker over there, but never mind, we're not going there. So anyway, oh, and I'm going to replace this power cord with something much more vintage. It's going to be cool, cool, cool. So anyway, going to do it now. Look out. Well, obviously there's something wrong, period. It's not supposed to be that buzzy. I had turned the bass down on the guitar to kind of emphasize it for the video, but clearly there's something wrong. And so I took a look at the speaker, and what looked like a pristine speaker in excellent condition turned out to be anything but. It had been sitting for I don't know how long, and then as soon as I played through it, it started falling apart. Cracks developed in the surround on the edges of the speaker, so I tried to dab that up with a little bit of glue. That didn't help. And then I started looking at the suspension, otherwise known as the spider, and that's really where the problem is. This old phenolic, if that's how you pronounce it, suspension. It got the name spider because this is what they used to be made out of, and it looks like a spider with legs. It just doesn't have any more elasticity in it whatsoever, and playing through it caused it to break in all kinds of places. You can see here where, yeah, it just broke everywhere. So it took some time. I had to put it on the shelf. Until I could afford to get it reconed. The good news is that the electromagnetic field coils works, because otherwise it wouldn't make any sound at all. Same with the output transformer. It works. So all it really needs is a complete recone. And le voila. I replaced those with the correct value, actually. That big fat weird cap is now replaced with this big fat weird cap. Got some F&Ts right here, and another one over here. And this is the power cord that I put in here. Check this out. 3-prong, you can see the ground right there. And on the other end, it looks like that. So, check this out. Now, you may ask yourself, why isn't that attached to anything? Same with this over here. Well, what am I going to attach it to? You tell me. Okay? That? No, that's the old cap. And if it's draining or leaking to ground, then this one will be too. So, you know, in reality, it's clearing everything. And you know, if I just lay it down a little bit more, maybe like that, then I really don't have much to worry about. But I also have this right here. The speaker leads and the field coil speaker all get hooked up to that lead as well. So that's why I got extra on it with a little hook. Same with this guy over here. Got a little hook, something attached to. But overall, I think this is going to be mighty fine. I also got this handle for it. It didn't have a handle when I bought it, and The handle I got is also not the right one, but it is period correct. The correct one is in these pictures here. This is a buckle handle, and you can find these on eBay and Reverb, but they're only like 5.5, 6 inches, whereas this is about 7 inches. And I don't think it'll stretch, and I was recommended by the people I was talking to about these handles that had them for sale that it probably wouldn't work right. So I got this other arrowhead handle that is, it actually came from a, I think a tube tester or some sort of portable oscillator or oscilloscope or something from the 40s. So it is at least period correct, even though it's not correct for this amplifier. But it looks right. It looks cool. It looks good. All right, so what we have here is a field coil speaker, a 10-inch field coil speaker that came out of my Rickenbacher. I can't find anyone that has a recone kit for this. The spider inside of here is completely broken, and it's made of that phenolic material anyway. If you can see that, I don't know. Maybe you can't. But the output transformer is connected directly to the speaker, and then the rest of this is to power the electromagnet, which is the field coil. The old days, when this was built, magnets were expensive and heavy and large, and so it was more or less the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and people were cranking out machines like mad, and electromagnets were everywhere in every motor. So it was much cheaper to just put one of these on here, power it off of the B+, then you have a magnet, because this is not a magnet, it's electromagnet, it needs to be powered, and then you have your output transformer feeding directly to the speaker. Well, since I can't get this reconed, and I can, but it's gonna be a while, I want to hear what this amp sounds like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these leads here, this one and this one, those two leads, which go right there. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to connect a output jack to it. And that way, well, first thing I need to do is do a windings ratio test to figure out what the impedance of this speaker is. And then I will put an output jack on here, just one of these, you know, is going to go on here, and then I will be able to put this back in the cabinet. The field coil has to be hooked up to the circuit, because even though it won't be doing anything to drive the speaker, it does double duty as a power filter. So it goes from the rectifier to the choke to this power filter, which is more or less another choke, and that filters the power in the amp. So this has to stay in, but the speaker won't be doing anything. I'll come off of the output transformer to that jack, and I'll plug it into an appropriate speaker of the same ohmage, and then I'll finally be able to hear what this amp sounds like. So I'm gonna do that right now. All right, so there's the output transformer. I got some Teflon on it to keep anything from touching, and I've got my lead extended out to here, and from there it's going to an 8-ohm speaker. So with that in mind, here's the finished, more or less finished product, and here's what it sounds like. All right, I've got it hooked up into a 12-inch Jensen ceramic, the orange label speaker, and it sounds like this. Not sure about that distortion. If I turn it down, it goes away, but so does that mean I'm overdriving it? Or is there something else going on? I don't know, but I can hear it, and I'm playing through that old 1937 Ricknbacher Electro Lunchpail Model 4. And I'm pretty happy about that. So the guy that I sent the speaker to get reconed, Nick DeRazio, up at the speaker shop at the Villages, Florida, said that he could not find the exact same cone kit and everything for the speaker. This is an old Admiral speaker, and they just don't make recone kits for him anymore. So all I did was ask him to make something that is similar. Just, I want to hear this thing, so work your magic. And he did. Well, here we are some months later, and regrettably, I didn't take any video or pictures of this speaker once I got it reconed. And I just was all excited, and I put it in here. Now I'm going to try to get some pictures here and put it into the video, but you can see that, you know, it's got ribs on it, whereas, you know, the other one didn't have any ribs on it. But the he made he modified a modern suspension, Spider, and put a dust cap on it. The other one didn't have a dust cap originally. And this thing sounds really fantastic. I gotta say, it's very warm, very full, very rich sounding. And I'm about to put the whole thing back in here. I'm not taking it out again just to do the video, but it really does sound good. Check out the ribs. This thing probably sounds better than it ever did, even brand new. Now, that said, I took it around to 2 different places here in town, and both of them were completely baffled by a field coil. They had never seen one before, didn't know how it worked, and then when I explained it to them, they were like, well, we can't test it. So I had to save my pennies and send it to Nick DeRazio at the speaker shop in the Villages, Florida. And so here it is. Let's talk about what we're looking at here with these old tubes. This is the rectifier. This is an 80. This is the preamp, which is also the phase inverter. It's a twin triode, much like a 12AX7. It's got 2 triodes in one bottle. This is a 53. And it runs this one here, and there's another one in the back here. These are 47s. These are pentodes, and it runs these in push-pull. This particular model has 2 inputs and an on-off switch. I've seen where it doesn't even have an on-off switch. In fact, this is the schematic, and you'll see there's no on-off switch. Let's take a look at this real quick just to see what's going on. So your preamp, okay, your input comes in here and it hits the first triode. Out of the triode feeds half of the one of the 47 pentodes. But it also takes a very small amount of that signal and sends it back into the second triode, which feeds the other pentode. So your input is, you get one gain stage here, effectively. Then this is a paraphase phase inverter feeding the output tubes, the power tubes. This is an extremely simple circuit. And you'll see there's no volume, no tone. All of that was meant to be controlled by your guitar. At the time, of course, it was a Rickenbacher lap steel. Finding the schematic for this really wasn't too difficult, but finding tube charts and tube information for these old tubes proved to be very difficult. And the only one that I could find was something from Cunningham Radio Tubes, a C347, which is the pentodes here. They just go by 47s, but the Cunningham calls it a C347. And it gives me all the volts and the amps and everything that you would normally see, but what it doesn't say is what the plate dissipation is. And that's mainly what I was looking for. It is curious, though, that all of these tubes, old tubes, they run on 2.5 volt filaments. Whereas, of course, nowadays, it's all 6.3. So it's interesting. The 80 does run on 5 volts. The other interesting thing about these 47 tubes, these pentodes, is that the heaters, the cathodes are direct heated. The heaters and the cathodes are the same thing. So this 200 ohm resistor coming off of the heaters also acts not only as a virtual center tap for the heaters, but it's also the cathode resistor. I've never run into that before. That's really interesting. And the other interesting thing is the B plus comes off of here and it's hitting the output transformer, which you would expect to hit the plates, but it's also feeding the screens directly. There's no step down resistor. There's no grid stop resistors. Back in the day, the people that made this made radios, and it was just efficient way to make things. But the other curious thing about this, 80 years later, we know better. Even 15 years later, we knew better. What's happening here is your B plus is coming in and it's going to the screens unrestricted in any way, whereas as it goes through the plates, it is going through this transformer, which adds some resistance. So the screen voltage has to be higher than the plate voltage, which is not ideal, but that's the way it is. So there, that's what we got here, kids. So what I did to fix this situation is I added right here a 1K 3 watt resistor. This knocks the screen voltage down by literally 1 volt under the plate voltage. So it helps protect the screens a little bit, and more importantly, it keeps the plate voltage higher than the screen voltage. Not by much, but that's what you want. This is the only modification I made to this circuitry. Let's hear what this thing sounds like. Shut up and play your guitar.